Welcome back to my channel, Star Booze.
Why did Chevy Chase enter Saturday Night Live? Would be the last time he did it. By the conclusion of he was permanently banned that night, it began when he struck a female cast. Participant. The sexual remarks followed, but his worst moment wasn't. Even that. Members of the cast began leaving when yet directors declined to work. Alongside him. One left the directing position just to get away from him. Take a Christmas vacation. In 2018, a child assaulted him on the freeway. And had no idea who he was. The individual became the man and made everyone laugh. No one wanted to be around. Chevy Chase was Cornelius Crane. Chase was born on October 8, 1943. As soon as he got there, his existence revolved around power. The grandfather he was adopted by was Crane Cornelius Vanderbilt, which provided he has a close relationship with the well-known dynasty of Vanderbilt. That family made a lot of money on railroads and shipping in the 19th century, turning into Oneeman, America's most well-known and influential clans. Consequently, Chase was raised with an luxurious way of life, surrounded by wealth, impact as well as social standing. However, despite all the glitz, his private life would reveal a reality that is totally different. Even later in life, when he grinned on stage, his childhood hardships and internal suffering far more sinister tale. Chevy, his nickname, originated from a far older source than railroads in the United States. His grandmother died on it due to Chevy's ballad. Chase, a tale from the 15th century about intense conflict between English and forces from Scotland. The Douglas clan engaged in combat. In that fabled border conflict, and Chase's ancestors just so happened to be them. The ballad was well known enough to motivate a suburb of Washington, D.C., known as Chevy Chase. By referring to him as Chevy, his granny was tying him up with centuries of bravery and perseverance. The name was more than just a memorable moniker. It was a part of the lengthy history of his family and their heritage as proud Scots. However, beyond the boundaries of that affluent society, not everything was as ideal as they looked. Chase was only 4 years old when his parents split and broke up when he was old. What ought to have been a secure residence, even worse, his stepfather and mother were Everland. He would be kept in closets by them, and struck him for hours. The penalties left severe wounds. Supporters who just witnessed him as a humorous celebrity were startled to discover later, when Chase spoke candidly interviews regarding the tragedy in his moors, that discomfort followed him in totalhood and influenced his interpersonal connections. It demonstrated how even luxury can conceal excruciating pain. Additionally, school was a blend of genius and mayhem. Chase attended some of the best schools, such as New York's Riverdale Country School, but his acting frequently led to his expulsion. Out of the Stockbridge School later on, but maintained a rebellious nature. Harvard College, he played such an outrageous prank that it became part of a legend in college. He was expelled in his dorm room. He keeps a cow. Each and every there was some trouble mixed in with the success. That rebellious, playful spirit was already appearing in his comedies, appearing years later television. Prior to humor taking over his life, his initial passion was music. Chase played drums at Bard College and keyboards for the jazz ensemble Leather Canary. Donald and two of his bandmates, Walter Becker and Fagan Wood, subsequently from Dan Steely. Even in those days, Chase was gifted and imaginative. Leather Canary played with grace and vigor. Future rock stars also provided him with a sense of rhythm and timing. That feeling might eventually enable him to stand emerged as one of the leading comedians in America. Chase was a member of a daring new Channel 1 as a comedic troupe in New York. They weren't acting in a conventional manner. Skits, rather they displayed brief spoof videos on several televisions at their small East 60th Street theater. The humor on Channel 1 was witty, defiant, and frequently risky. It made history when comedy was still mostly subdued. The most well-liked sketches on Channel 1 were assembled into a 1974 film titled The Under, the direction of co-founder Ken Groove Tube Shapiro, constructed for only $200,000. The movie made more than $9 million. The portion on the phony news desk was a direct source of Chase's well-known weekend SNL update. Several years prior to SNL, Chase became an employee of National Lampoon Radio. Hour in 1973. The radio program was broadcast each week and presented a selection of the best-renowned comedians of the time, including as Gilda Radner, John Belushi, Bill Murray, Harold Ramos, and Christopher Guest. The team authored and worked quickly and accurately. Comedy that influenced the humor of America for you. Despite the show's reduction after just 13 episodes since its difficult speed, almost every one of its players was employed for SNL, and Chase took center stage. In that year, he co-authored the National Lampoon's Off-Performance Lemmings, a Broadway success. The performance was a mimicry of the Woodstock event, reimagined as 3 days of Woodstock Live, Death, and Peace. Chase performed drums, singing, and the entire ensemble, featuring Christopher and John Belushi. Rock legends like Bob were sent up by the guest, John Denver and Dylan. It was praised by critics. Time magazine referred to the program as an absurd parody of the rock scene, and eventually, its catchy songs were published as an album. Prior to the majority of individuals Chase, who was writing, even recognized his face. Mad Magazine parody. In 1970, he came up with a one-page parody of Mission Both, John Cullen Murphy and Impossible artwork. That problem sold millions of copies. Being a member of Mad was a significant ingredient at its height. The magazine and featured authors such as Charles Schulz and Andy Griffith, receiving Your Joe published there, and even receiving an invitation to Mad's renowned tours for the top contributor, were a mark of distinction. It was a soggy evening in Los Angeles during the spring of 1975. Chevy Chase, who was largely unheard of at the time, stood waiting in line at the Paramount Theater's Monty Python and the Holy New Grail, the film festival in Los Angeles, washming all around him. Chase made the decision to his specialty was making people laugh. He joked and performed impressions. Fourth Assembly. Lorne Michaels, a nearby Canadian producer, is seeking talent for a brand new comedy show that airs late. Abruptly, Chase went into a pothole after slipping. Settling into a large puddle. As much as water, he continued to joke that it spilled from him. NBC Dick Ebersol, an executive, noticed this, and how could you say no? Michael said to a madman who would do that. Chase was invited to the chateau by Michaels for a meeting. It was wet with rain. Moment enabled him to secure a position as author and star of a new program that would quickly transform into Saturday Night Live. When Saturday Night Live debuted on October 11, 1975, Chase was chosen to serve as the fake news anchor. Section. The concept was novel, and Chase gave it a unique look. Each week he delivered the news with a weekend update. Funny phrases, but a serious expression. TM Chevy Chase and Uranites rose to fame in an instant. Even people continue to wear it decades later. Shirts. Chase created it from actual news. Ridiculous. Making fun of important subjects with remarks such as Janado Francisco Franco remains dead. Each time he concluded by saying, "Good night and enjoy your day tomorrow." Audience thought they knew the joke. That season, Chase gained notoriety for his President Gerald Ford's impression. Around June 1, 1975, Ford had full while descending from Air Force One, Austria-Salzburg. Chase employed that take a time to chuckle. During SNL's fourth episode, Chase started on November 8, 1975. Portraying Ford as an awkward leader who stumbled over everything. Each time Ford showed up on stage, Chase would ring jumping, hitting his head on furniture, and banging standing up, saying, "No issue, no issue." Ford's voice was never imitated by Chase. Rather, he portrayed him as sumi and tumbling down all the time. Ford eventually called at the drawings, but they influenced how the public perceived him as either president will always be a bumbling idiot. Chase very on could see the talent. In 1976, in a single season, he was awarded to Primo an Emmy for writing, and another for his performance. Additionally, he grabbed a Golden Globe for composition. New York, he was named the funniest man in a magazine 1975 in America. NBC even made a suggestion that Heckle eventually replaced Johnny Carson's part as The Tonight Show's guest host. Later, Rolling Stone stated that Chase was among the 10 most significant actors, pointing out that in just one season, he established the tone of the program and comedy. However, with all of this success, Chase opted to quit SNL. His final episode was 30, October 1976. He was the initial cast member to depart at any time. Many people pondered why would someone sacrifice so much soon. Chase jokingly stated that the cause was cash, a lot of cash. However, the reality was more intimate. He was incredibly in love. Alongside Jacqueline Carlin, an actress, Chase stated, "I went to see a girl I was in love with. A girl who refused to go California." Chevy Chase was made into a motion picture star nearly immediately. In 1978, he featured in the comedy thriller film Foul Play alongside Goldie Hawn. It was his first time directing position. Just 2 years prior, on Saturday Night Live, Chase appeared. However, everything changed because of this one movie. Unsavory. The play was a big success. It made more than $44 million was made at the box office, a significant amount at the time. Additionally, the film received 7 nominations for the Golden Globes. Chase was nominated for Best Actor. It was a quick and unexpected ascent. The movie, suspense and comedy, and then a crazy scheme to kill the Pope, despite disagreements among critics. One thing was agreed upon. Chase was a born athlete. Star. His humorous timing was excellent, and remarkably, Chase had been proposed to play a part in Animal House, but had declined to participate in Foul Play, a decision that permanently influenced his career. The movie was so well-liked that it even sparked a brief television show in 1981. The play of Fouls made him well-known, and it was a deal beginning to a decade of comedy hits. However, behind the scenes, people began to notice a greater Chevy Chase's challenging side. In 1980, Chase was the cool guy at Caddyshack. Ty Webb, a careless golfer. The film didn't happen at all with him to anchor. The studio wanted a huge star. Chase was their first option because of the movie to create it. They invested $6 million, and it made around $40 million in the United States. By itself, the movie was disorganized and disobedient. Similar to its characters, Chase's slick manner and witty one-liners were flawless. Despite the reviews were initially combined, Caddyshack became in two of the most well-known comedies in history. Chase and Bill Murray's exchanges were funny and impromptu. Additionally, the movie marks Harold's first time directing Grimace and contributed to the emergence of a new fashion humor. Chase was the sole individual among Vecchi players who came back for Caddyshack 2 in 1988. Even now, individuals continue Tough Movie, and Ty Webb is regarded as one of the most actors that are memorable. In 1983, Chase had established one of his most well-known roles as regarding National Lampoon's Clark Griswold, Take a Vacation. The movie that was based on a Jonathan Hughes story brought in over $61 million. Chase portrayed a father who merely wished to provide his family a wonderful vacation. The joke was that everything had gone wrong. Viewers adored Clark's awkward, well-intentioned fashion. The persona was so well-liked that for additional films were released such as Christmas Vacation, which earned in 1989 $71 million. In total, the franchise made over $322 million. After 40 years, people still continue to chuckle at Clark Griswold. The films are now a part of popular culture in America. Additionally, Chase demonstrated his ability to make one character humorous repeatedly. By the late 1980s, Chase received $7 million for each film, almost $15 million in the current. That placed him next to Hollywood's leading actors in drama and action. His roles in films such as Fletch and He had earned it during Christmas Vacation. Significant power. Studios were aware of his name. They granted him tickets because he could sell them. Artistic authority as well. However, this was also in his reputation as a challenging star to expand. Chase was insistent about it, and frequently quarreled over billing and scripts. Tales of his inflated ego. He was as much followed as his jokes. It was an odd contrast. He was producing while viewers chuckle behind the scenes. Not everyone shared his sense of humor. Chase displayed a different aspect of his abilities, playing a cunning, covert and Fletch reporter with a snappy joke for everything. Fletch was released in 1985 and cost $8, earned $60 million. Globally, Chase made a lot of their characters' most hilarious moments, even making up names as he went. Viewers adored the blend of humor and mystery while reviewers commended Chase's funny timing. The position evolved into owner of his most well-known, and he came back for in 1989. Fletch Lives. Hollywood. Even years later, they attempted to restart Fletch. However, the persona and Chase were so closely related that Tit was never successful. Even decades following its publication, people continued to view Fletch as among the most intelligent and humorous comedy thrillers ever. However, achievement had its negative aspects. Returning to Saturday Night Live, Chase's quick ascent had resulted in negative blood with Belushi. John Belushi, already famous, believed Chase was stealing the show. He informed everyone that Chase was conceited and diligent, with Belushi even made fun of Chase live. Television, rendering their conflict extreme to the general public. On a well-known July evening 1976, Belushi and Chase got into an altercation during an icy crack. What appeared to be a jest was genuinely letting their true tension show on film. The atmosphere was poisonous. That ultimately caused Chase to quit a single season. When Chase came back as in February 1978, a guest host, that there was still tension. Murray Bilwo had replaced Chase in the ensemble, was really irate. Murray pondered Chase was overconfident and had left SNL too soon. The two got into a fight backstage and started exchanging personal information. Insults. Murray instructed Chase to go to bed with his spouse. Chase retaliated by making fun of Murray's expression. The altercation became very heated that John was struck with punches. The dressing room of Belushi, other actors members as well as Billy Joel, a special guest, observed it take place. Doyle, Brian, Belushi and Murray had to step in to take them apart. After a few minutes, Chase had to appear on the stage as though nothing had occurred. The entire cast felt shook. They compared it to a family quarrel that left everyone depressed and tense. Terry Sweeney then became the first cast member to come out as gay, and Chase mistreated him. This occurred during the AIDS epidemic when anxiety and there was a lot of false information. Chase thought drawing a sketch would be amusing, where Sweeney portrayed a role alongside IDs, weighed weekly to determine if he had shed pounds. It was a really cruel notion. Additionally, Chase would welcome, "Oh, you're the gay man," Sweeney said, "correct," and then make offensive comments, like as, "You might begin by licking my balls." It was more than a passing joke, it continued. He did the work. The atmosphere was quite poisonous. Only Sweeney lasted one season, and no one was hired by SNL, another male cast member that is openly gay, for over 2 years. When Chase wasn't told to apologize at last. "I'm very sorry." Later, Sweeney recalled that Chase was upset about being detained, not at all responsible. It didn't stop there. February 15, 1997, Chase came back as a guest host on Saturday Night Live, and it was as soon as possible. During rehearsals, he struck Charot, a cast member, on the rear of the head. Lorne Michaels, the creator of the show, made a snap decision to permanently ban him. It wasn't only the physical hostility. Chase Harris, who appeared in the program creating obscene jokes and offensive sexual walks. Will Ferrell, who observed the entire situation, was referred to as abusive. Chase specifically targeted ladies, making the bold move of telling one woman writer, "Perhaps you could lend me a helping hand." Work later. Carol would then remark that all of them wished they had risen and left. However, at that time, they were simply too astonished. The entire environment was tense and dehumanizing, and Chase had little regard for the populace operating in his vicinity. Chris Columbus was appointed to oversee National Lampoon's 1989's Christmas Vacation. At that, he was a budding talent at the time, wishing to leave his mark. However, everything gelted upon his initial encounter with Chevy Chase. Later, Columbus would say it was the most strange and unbelievable encounter of his professional life. He was ready to discuss his idea for the movie. Chase, however, sat quietly for about 40 minutes and refused to acknowledge him at all. Then leave suddenly. Chase broke the quiet without query. "Hold on a minute, you're a filmmaker." Columbus gave a nod. Additionally, Chase said, "Oh, I assumed you were a musician." That was it. The gathering was over. Chase just got up and declared he got to go. Columbus was left speechless. And they tried another meal together with author John, this time Hughes, but it didn't get any better. "This is truly," Columbus said to Hughes, "difficult for me, but I am unable to watch this film." Along with Chevy Chase, it wasn't merely an unpleasant conflict between personalities. Columbus possessed both something poisonous in Chase, which he refused to collaborate with. At the time, it was a dangerous move to walk away. Columbus really needed a hit following his previous movie. The Hotel Heartbreak had exploded, but Hughes ignored his choice and gave him two fresh scripts. Reach was the name of one. He had no interest in The Rock. The Home Alone was the other. Columbus sensed an immediate communication. Home Alone continued to make more than $476 million globally, making him among the most successful directors in Hollywood. Night, Mrs. Doubtfire was the result, and Harry Potter's first two movies, career peaks that might not have occurred if on Christmas Vacation he had stayed. In the meantime, Chase's standing maintained sinking from the 1980s to the 1990s. Rumors circulated about how challenging he was to cooperate with. Directors as well as producers started to stay away from him. Columbus would claim that he was only one among numerous called not collaborate with him. Chase frequently misdrew co-workers, declined to cooperate, and even engaged in combat with co-stars, similar to Bill Murray on the Saturday set Live at Night. At that point, Chase was so infamous for the fact that many filmmakers just refused to collaborate with him. His career started to decline. Films such as the 1991 book Nothing But Trouble, Memoirs of Ann Cops and Invisible Man, 1992 Robertson's 1994, all failed and made a lot of money, just $34 million in all. An awful number for somebody who was formerly a leading comedian. Chase even acknowledged the worst film was Nothing But Trouble. He would eventually make it. Then the big catastrophe, the Chevy Chase program. In 1993, Fox had invested millions to change into the Chevy Chase Theater, putting a 5 to 6 bet on him millions of viewers each night. However, it was a ratings nightmare. Less than 3 million people initially paid attention, and at the conclusion, the short term, less than 2 million Time phoned Chase, who was anxious and completely at sea. Additionally, Entertainment Weekly gave the program a failing grade, noting that Chase was unable to engage with visitors or viewership. Visitors were unwilling to show up. Viewers turned off, and Fox cancelled after only 5 weeks. 48 hours later, the large sign was covered with paint. Chase even called later. The show is extremely restrictive and acknowledged he would never repeat it. The Chevy Chase never appeared to restrain themselves. On the set of things in the community went well beyond jokes done into an area that is truly unsightly. Donald among the most gifted was Glover. Individuals there. Chase was aware of that. However, rather than praising him, Chase continued making insulting comments. They weren't merely casual comments. They were vile and frequently racist. He once said, "Glover, people find you more humorous due to your race." At another point, he'd pause in between shots to ensure Glover he was heard. Glover was cool about it, but the weight of it was felt by all. The show's creator Don Harmon noticed it felt as well. Harmon took offense at Chase's taunts weren't arbitrary. They were motivated by pure envy. The New Yorker was informed by Harmon thought Chase had recognized how unique Glover was ahead of everyone. Rather, instead of encouraging him, Chase made an effort too. He stumbled. Harmon expressed regret to Glover. More than once. Glover would simply shrugged. It was removed, but Harmon recognized what was continuing. This individual had previously been asked 4 years before a new one emerges upon snapping because he was unable to acknowledge that his time was running out. Then the N-word appeared. Chase was in the midst of griping about his one day. That word fell from the character. Clearly and loudly. It took place immediately and in front of everyone. Nicole Ivy Brown was so enraged that she left. She said producers that she would not return until Chase had left. He was gone in a matter of hours, the entire lot. Authors hurried to eliminate his personality. For him it was over simply in that sense. The program had at last sufficient. When the third season of Rap When the Party arrived, everyone had a great time to express. Harmon made the decision to say it. Collectively. At the celebration with Chase there, a woman and daughter, Harmon fuck you, Chevy, they chanted loudly. Nearly everyone joined in. It was a rallies, a sort of farewell to the harmful conduct that they would tolerate. 4 years Chase listened to everything. There was nowhere to hide. Then there was their voicemail. Chase departed following all of this. Harmon sent a lengthy, irate message. He referred to him by every possible name, disparaged his work, and even wished that he would eat too soon as a result of his eating habits. At his comedic show, Harmon played the message. Display. It was also a low blow, creating sure that everyone heard how profound the fight ran. When Chase was formally released, everyone was sworn out. The producers made the decision to throw him out completely. Brown clarified thought. No more scenes would be filmed alongside him. It was more than just a dismissal. It was a highly visible removal. After several years, when the online reunion of the Community cast, they selected the one for a table read. Pierce's death was the main emphasis of the episode. Chase was not invited. No one even brought him up. That didn't stop him down. Chase was still nimble at 7-4-2 dispute. The 9th of February 2018 pursued a truck on Interstate 87 close to Cuomo Bridge. Governor Mario M. believed they had struck him. When they tugged and tempers erupted, a young man named He was cursed at by Michael Landrio. Chase fired back after kicking him. Landrio departed him on the floor. Afterwards, Landrio revealed Palace that Chase wasn't someone he knew at everything. He needed to look him up on Google. Additionally, Chase he remained the same despite everything. When CBS questioned him in 2022 regarding his repute, he made no effort to act. I could care less. I am who he said. I am, that's all. Even though the Globe continued to call him harsh and even unpleasant, Chase never felt compelled to shift, as though none of the rage